I welcome all of you. My name is Gabi Tayak. I'm a historian in Piscataway, and I'm actually standing in today for the person who conceived of and brought together and bundled the knowledge for Suzan of this panel, Patsy Phillips, who is the director of the IAI Museum of Contemporary Native American Art, who fell and hurt herself and can't join us, but I know she's on screen because she's been messaging me through the day. So she's here with us. It is my privilege to present the next panel, our third panel of the day. All people who are also quite transformative in the areas of policy, law, sovereignty, culture in action, education. So another series of great minds moving together in reflection of Suzan. We have Jodi Archambault, who is the director of the Indigenous Peoples Initiatives for Wend Ventures. We also have Tina Kukan Miller, who's the Vice President of Indigenous Arts and Education at the Evergreen State College. And we have Wilson Pipestem, the founding partner of Pipestem Law. So I'd like to welcome all of you. They'll each present in turn and then reconvene together to have a dialogue and conversation between them. We won't be taking questions from the audience today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Jodi to share.
Hamitakiapi, chante washte anape chuzapi, oyate wayankapi we emachiapi. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jodi Archambault. I'm from the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. I greet you all with a warm, heartfelt handshake. I'm here to talk about Suzan Harjo and the honors and awards that she has earned over a long period of time. I want to, first of all, thank the museum for honoring Suzan. I want to thank everybody for coming here today to join us in celebrating her achievements and accomplishments. And I want to start off by just saying that this is a huge way for me to have reciprocity with what is happening, not just in my life, but throughout the ages of time. One of the things that I know to be true about Suzan is that she's very close to who she is as a Cheyenne and Creek woman, and I've worked with her most of my life, probably all of my professional life. I met her when I was about 19 years old, and continue to remain a close friend, ally, like Hunka, we're very closely tied in a traditional sense, in an adopted sense of our people. The thing that I want to start off saying is that Suzan is Cheyenne. She's of the Bear people. She's her Cheyenne name is Morning Star Woman. And when I think about a lot of our people believe that we come from the stars, and so when we think about the vastness of the work that has to be done on a regular basis to maintain who we are as peoples, this is not a small feat for any of us to do. But I think with Suzan's understanding and her grounding as a Cheyenne woman, her grounding it starts with the stars, and that celestial tie that she has, she brings every day to her work and her relationships. I want to say that I'm going to start off with a clip because it's going to explain how the rest of my presentation will go. Let's see if I can work this.
There's not a single thing I've done except write poetry that has been just myself. Everything else, whether it's making federal Indian law or making an institution or changing society, changing history, rewriting history, all of those things are grand collaborations. And they just take a mighty effort.
So these are the words of Suzan as she was being interviewed when she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This sets the stage for how she's been honored in her own words of what she thinks is important, is that this isn't an honoring of just Suzan, but the grand collaborations that she's helped to steward and guide throughout time. This is an example of her attention to the generational work that's at hand. This is a collapsing of many generations in the present, both before us and in the future. Here you have Suzan pictured with folks at gatherings of where people achieve change. And National Congress of American Indians, actually National Indian Education Association. The photo on the upper right is Suzan with people who are living in Chicago, Shoshone Paiute women who are fighting the mascot issue. There's on the lower side, she's sitting with a number of women at the International Treaty Council, where they were discussing just things of the day, the regular goings on, the regular doings that are happening throughout the United States, and then the picture of the children is something that really struck me as both profound because of the influence that she has on the next generation, but also the way that these young women were all organized with their grandmothers. So it was a multi-generational action that definitely is how I've seen her do her work. I think that, like, as we talk about honors and awards, the way that we see honor from a Cheyenne Lakota perspective is that it's really about how close you are to the people themselves. So we can sit and talk about all of the wonderful diplomats and all of the high-ranking officials that she's been engaged with. But the thing that I find over and over is that she is so much more about the people who she's collaborated with, and the excitement that she gets in her voice when she talks about the people like Vine Deloria, like Avis Little Eagle at the NAJA conference. The photo with the black and white photo is of Juanita Learned. She was the first Cheyenne Arapaho chairwoman. And they were fighting for the return of the Fort Reno lands, which is still a fight. There's also the photo with, these are folks from my community where I grew up. I grew up in Pine Ridge, and Celine Not Help Him, Maria Not Help Him, Alex White Plume, as they pressed to get an apology for the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1990, before the anniversary. They were successful, but the Congress wouldn't say the word apology. They said it in Latin or something like that. So they did pass something, which was really hard. And Celine Not Help Him is from the community of Wounded Knee in Pine Ridge. Suzan has stories of all the people, and she has close deep relationships with them. And those relationships aren't just formed when they come to DC. They're constant. They're, as you know, when you come to DC, it's kind of crazy. But in the wee hours of the day, of the mornings, and in the late hours of the night, Suzan is constantly nurturing those relationships in ways that provide for so much trust when people do come to DC for various types of work. This is a picture of Suzan and Oren Lyons, Suzan and her grandson. And these are all ways that as she's celebrated today, I want everyone to understand that Suzan really is of the people. So in our culture, as Lakota look at how we think about the great and the mighty, it is how common they are and how much closer they are to the people who are on the ground, on the front line. And I wouldn't say that Suzan sets herself apart or above any of the people who are doing the work regularly in the communities. She's actually just facilitating to bring their voices to bear on whatever issue it is. And this is what makes for greatness. When you have the Presidential Medal of Freedom as the highest civilian honor that a president can bestow on a citizen in the United States, for all of her work there, and you've heard of a lot of it today, but I'm just going to say that she's definitely put her heart into returning 1 million acres, the cultural rights, I always say that she wouldn't, I've never heard her characterize herself as an environmentalist, but she has protected billions of prayers that have gone out into the universe through her work on the protection of sacred lands and sacred places, a return of objects of cultural patrimony. And it's not that she directly works on the protection of the natural world, but she does so through the prayers of our people. And she sees that as the most impactful ways that we can be environmentalists. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on the word environmentalism, but she really is. She predates environmentalism with a lot of the thoughts and philosophy that she reflects from Native peoples of Turtle Island. This Presidential Medal of Freedom was awarded in 2014. I was at the White House at the time, and when folks were asking for names to be put forward, it was kind of like a no-brainer. In visiting with the people about who should be awarded, and the fact that Suzan could be present for the ceremony and that she is still actively doing the work was something that was a great joy to be a part of. It's one of my highlights of being a staff to President Obama. This is the awards that came, or honors that came afterwards, and although being in the company of folks like Meryl Streep, Tom Brokaw, other Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients, I think the most important parts of being honored is within your own community. And as you know, Suzan served as the executive director for the National Congress of American Indians. They awarded her with a leadership award in 2015, and that was really important and significant to do because of all of the work that she did for the organization at NCAI, but also her continued involvement in various subcommittees and so forth. The other thing that is highlighted here is the NCORE. In 2015, they gave her an award for an activist for systemic social justice. This is NCORE is an organization. It's a national conference on race and ethnicity for higher education institutions. She was awarded these two awards, and I was able to go to both ceremonies, and it was really nice to see her with her families and being lifted and sort of like in the spotlight for these two places. But then again, like, you have national organizations and high-ranking awards. And then you have the thing that lights her up the most, and that's the Cheyenne Arapaho homecoming, which happened the same year. These are not insignificant. When you have a community honoring you and bringing you around, and that's how we see it. A long time ago, they used to put you on a horse, and you'd have a caller. I guess what you would say, an announcer, bring you around and highlight and speak praise upon you. So it's so much more significant to have a people do that for you, and your own people especially. This is really big, because I know that she spent a lot of years, a lot of thankless hours, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, if you will. And without that kind of place with your own people, I mean, it is something that doesn't happen very often. Another thing that happened, this is previously, and these are really special things that have happened as like highlights. I mean, there's lots of lectures, and she's been like the Montgomery Fellowship. She was the first Native person at Dartmouth College to get this Montgomery Fellowship. She's been the first speaker of in various places where they're distinguished places to be, but the honorary doctorate is something that I know, and I wasn't able to make that ceremony. But they gave, the Institute of American Indian Arts gave her that award. And I always marvel at, I would see hints of her work while I was in the White House. And this was so befitting for this institution to give her this award, because there are technical things that happen in DC that it's hard to explain. It takes a long time to explain. But I'll just tell you that the way that the Institute of American Indian Arts is funded is really unique. It's basically like its own agency. It gets a direct appropriation from Congress. It's not under the Department of Interior. It's not under the Smithsonian. It's not under like any of these agencies. It's just, it's kind of like it's an anomaly for, there's a lot of them, but they're very, it's strange to see it. It's really hard to take away funding from these kinds of arrangements, and she helped to. She was one of the architects who figured this out way back when. So the sustainability of this institution in giving back to her is something that in giving back to her contribution to Indian arts is something that is really beautiful to see, and as we talk about reciprocity and how we can ensure the longevity of some of the work that we do. Because a lot of the work that I did is kind of like on hold or on ice or not. You can't really see it anymore, but it might come back. But this is real institutionalization. This is real lasting change when you can figure out something like this. And as part of this this entire this entire awarding of or honoring of Suzan, they also they also did a show, and they had a lot of people react to her poetry. And so when we talk about the Presidential Medal of Freedom, wow, that's cool. But Suzan is more excited when people are honoring her through art. And there's 2 images. There were 3, but the third one isn't coming up. It's in your program by David Bradley. But Stephen Grounds did an exhibit, or did a bunch of murals in Concho, Oklahoma at the Indian School. And he honored Suzan's legacy by she's one of the people who is on it, who's the subject of the mural. The next one is a painting by Mateo Romero, and it honors a dream that she had. When she was doing repatriation work, there was a dream of a young girl who kept coming to her in her dreams, and it was probably somebody who needed to go home. And so this is a dress that was painted by an artist, and these were all displayed when she was honored at the IAIA. There are other pieces, and this is the most recent, Buffalo Horned Belt by Kevin Poirier, and Kevin's here in the audience. He did a piece that won Best of Show. It's on exhibit outside, so if any of you haven't seen it or haven't heard about it, it's a beautiful piece of work. And this is the fellowship that Suzan really appreciates, is being included when you have, Kevin highlighted a lot of Native women who he and his wife saw as important Native leader female figures. And Bobby Jean Three Legs is from Standing Rock. She's one of the youth who started the organizing for the pipeline protests back in 2016. And Suzan is the person featured on the right. You have the Morning Star in the background. And so she really enjoys and really is, I think, loves to be in fellowship when folks are honored and highlighted. And thank you, Kevin, for doing that piece. I'm in the piece. I'm also on the belt too, so thank you. So the last thing that I'm just going to talk about is this children's book, and this is again a nod to the multi-generational ways that we can do our work. And She Spoke is a book that talks about different. It's a book of giant women, and there's like Hillary Rodham Clinton and Dolores Huerta, and a lot of wonderful Shirley Chisholm. There's a lot of people in that book, and she's part of that fellowship of greatness. I'm just going to wrap up here by saying that I don't think a lot of people understand that I've been mentored for a long time by Suzan, and I met her. When I met her, we spent a few hours together, and she told me that I was going to be a senator someday, and nobody had ever said anything like that to me ever before. And throughout the years, and I'm not a senator, and I'm not planning on being a senator, but certainly putting those kinds of seeds of what I could accomplish as like, of course I'll work at the White House. Yeah, I can work at the White House, no problem. I really didn't have the support or the experience that I think you would get from conventional ways, but because I had people. I would say that, I went to the White House because of Suzan, not because of just what she said 20 years ago, but she was also on the policy committee and kept telling me, we would get excited together, and she kept telling me, why don't you just join the campaign? And then pretty soon I was working for the campaign. Pretty soon she said, well, you should just come to DC and help these guys out. They need some help. And Billy Frank at the time was saying, and forgive me for saying this, but these are the exact words of Billy Frank. Billy Frank kept saying, we don't want any shit Indians on the administration. And and so this is, I'm sorry, that's kind of crude, but that's what he was saying. And And Suzan was saying, not like that, but she was saying we really need different people in this administration, people who are not afraid, who are fearless, and not like sort of jaded by what's possible in the town. And I think these kinds of ways that she instills, I was 19 years old when I first met her, and we still continue to have a very, very close relationship, and I'm really honored to be able to talk about some of the ways that she has been highlighted. But going back to what really this is about is her relationship to the stars, her relationship to her grandchildren, her relationship to the next generation is something that she draws upon from past generations, and she sets a wonderful example for us all to follow. Thank you.